This is the third of 3 practice videos coming from Chapter 7 of Greek Word Studies for Everyone. And in this video, we will look at the word makarios, specifically the use in James 1:12. Because remember, words have a range of meaning, and we can't just say this word means this in every instance. We need to look at each specific meaning in the literary context to determine what it means. So let's first look at James 1:12, and the verse says, "Blessed, makarios, is the one who endures trials, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him." So the first step we're recommending to you in a word study is to consider the literary context, If we were to mark out the word, so one idea is just imagine that this word is not in the verse. Blank. Right? Oops. There we go. Blank is the one who endures trials, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. If you read it that way, and you ask what fits in that context, it seems that the idea of being favored or accepted by God is the most natural expectation based on the other words in the sentence. When we look at English Bible translations, you can see Christian Standard Bible, blessed. ESV, blessed. KJV, blessed. Net Bible, happy. NIV, blessed. NLT, God blesses. Even though there's only one translation that favors this, there are other voices, other scholars and pastors who recently have been promoting the idea that makarios should not be translated as blessed, but that some other translation is better. So the question we're asking, in James 1:12, does the word makarios convey more the idea of subjective happiness and fulfillment? So apparently the Net Bible translation, or the more objective idea of being favored by God? So is it happiness and fulfillment, or being favored by God? Those are the two main contenders. So now we list the Greek word's range of meaning. This is one of the steps we're recommending. So we look in the best Greek lexicon, BDAG, Bauer, Donker, Arndt, and Gingrich, and we're talking about the 3rd edition of that. And so these are the 2 numbered entries in BDAG. Number 1, pertaining to being fortunate or happy because of circumstances. Fortunate, happy. Number 2, pertaining to being especially favored, blessed, fortunate, happy, privileged. From a transcendent perspective, the more usual sense, the general Greco-Roman perspective, one on whom fortune smiles, but then it gives us the subcategory of humans, privileged recipient of divine favor, right? So we're seeing that within the semantic range as BDAC has mapped it out, it can mean either happy or blessed. Some insights from NID and TTE here, the New International Dictionary of New Testament Theology and Exegesis, edited by Moises Silva. In the dictionary entry, Silva presents compelling linguistic evidence that the word makarios usually, it's important, usually has the sense of happy or fortunate, with an emphasis on the pronouncement of divine perspective on reality in various Old Testament examples. Happy is the man who... Okay, now we're going to note interesting appearances of the word in the Greek New Testament. And in the Bible software program that I use that's fallen out, the company has closed, but it's still working, so I'm still using it. It tells us there are 50 examples within the Greek New Testament. I am recommending to you to use lexicon.katabiblon.com as a free, easy way to do similar searches. So we go up here, let's go to the mu right there, right? Mu, and we're going to go to makarios. So we skim down. Oh, why is it always the color to help us? Well, it's because I clicked on it beforehand just to make sure. Makarios. And it tells us here that there are 49 instances in the New Testament. And when I fetched the verses, I did this beforehand, and I was like, where is it different? Where is the one place where it's different? And it's nice you can do this and can have the English translation out your side, which is really what the purpose of this is, not to be exhaustive, but to look at a lot of different examples and try to get a sense for the meaning of the word. But what I found was the one place where they differed was in my search, it had this comparative usage. So maybe because it's a comparative form, happier, more blessed, it's not showing up in the way that the database is put together. But it does, you don't have to have 100% of the same search. In fact, even very good Bible software programs will sometimes differ slightly because of the way the words are tagged. So that's not really that big of a deal. So we'll go back here. It's not a big deal for you in trying to sort through those verses and determine what they mean. The Beatitudes, Matthew 5, 1 through 11, may be the best known usage of this word. Does a sense of happiness or blessedness seem to fit the context here better? A sense of being favored by God does seem a bit more natural in that context. Then we're going to note interesting appearances of the word outside the Greek New Testament. And for all of you, something you can do for that is you can look on lexicon.katabiblon.com, and when you click on that word, it automatically gives you the occurrences in the Septuagint, the LXX, the Greek translation of the Old Testament. 73 different instances. We could click on Fetch LXX verses, and it gives us all the verses here on the left, and then it gives us the translation on the right. And we remember that in Katabiblon, it is giving us not just canonical books, but it's also pulling from the Apocrypha. And because it's, for example, here's 4th Maccabees right here, that really doesn't matter. In fact, it's helpful to see how the word was used, its range of meaning. We're not affirming these verses as canonical and looking at them. They're helpful for us to understand how the word was used in roughly the same time period. So we look at occurrences outside the Greek New Testament. If we had the ability, we could look in Philo, Josephus, we could look in the Apostolic Fathers. If you have a Bible software program, it's just click, and that sort of search is easily done. Another step we're recommending is to consult commentaries. Which commentaries would you recommend getting for James? Well, go to bestcommentaries.com, and it will give you some recommendations. But here I'm drawing from a comment in the Expositor's Bible Commentary by Donald Burdick. This is what he writes. Let's read it together. He says, the expression, blessed is the man, reveals the author's familiarity with the language of the Old Testament. He gives a number of citations. And the Beatitudes, maybe it should say, rather than in the Beatitudes. It is not sufficient to translate the word makarios as happy. Even in secular Greek, the word describes the transcendent happiness of a life beyond care, labor, and death. And here he's citing the reference work TD&T, the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament. In biblical usage, it speaks of the distinctive religious joy. It's talking about makarios, the word. It speaks of the distinctive religious joy, which is one of the benefits of salvation. James uses the term to describe the enviable state of the man who does not give up when confronted with trying circumstances, but remains strong in faith and devotion to God. All right, so we summarize our findings, and this is an essential step. You can't just leave it floating in your mind, but you want to force yourself to write yourself clear, Although the non-biblical and Septuagintal, right, that means, again, just the Greek Old Testament, Septuagintal usage of makarios seem to favor some sense of subjective happiness or delight, the context of James 1:12 fits better the idea of a pronouncement of divine favor or approval. Perhaps there is a sense of happy is the man in the sense that we can take joy in our position when we know it is the path of righteousness, which is pleasing to God. God's pronouncement of favor rests on us, so we can consider ourselves to be happy indeed. Is this trying to pack too much into the word? That's a legitimate question. If the least meaning is the best meaning, would it simply be better to retain the idea of divine favor, blessed? Most English translations end up favoring, pun intended, the translation of blessed. Again, one of the reasons you're watching these videos, you're studying this book, Greek Word Studies for Everyone, is so that you can do these sorts of searches yourself and sift through the evidence and prayerfully consider it. And I hope the skills that you've gained, that this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of the rest of your life going deeper and deeper into God's Word. That's my prayer for you.